A little boy disappeared from a quiet Idaho neighborhood, not from a shopping mall, not from a highway, not from a crowded event. He vanished close to home. His name was Michael. His family called him Monkey. He was 5 years old. And on a summer evening in Fruitland, Idaho, Michael was seen near his neighborhood. Then he was gone. For years, the case looked like a nightmare with no answers. Police searched, volunteers searched, dogs searched, families checked yard, field, roads, and river areas, but Michael never came home. Then years later, the case changed. A nearby household, a strange tip, a backyard search, a cadaver dogs, police interviews, and a man named Stacey Wondra, now accused of kidnapping and killing Michael. But there is one problem that still haunts this case. Michael's body was never been found. So tonight we are going step by step. What happened that evening? Why did investigation turn toward the Wondra home? What did prosecutors say in court? And why after all these years does Michael's family still not have the one answer they need most? Where is Michael? Fruitland, Idaho is the kind of place where a child disappearing feels impossible. It is small. It is quiet. It is the kind of town where people know the roads, the parks, the houses, and the families. That is what made this case so terrifying. Michael was not a teenager who left home. He was not a runaway. He was a 5-year-old child. He was known for being full of energy, playful, and loved by his family. His nickname, Monkey, came from that lively, white little kid spirit. On July 27, 2021, Michael's mother, Brandy, was at work. Early that afternoon, she called home. Michael was playing video games. Everything seemed normal. There was no warning, no sign that this would become the day that split the family's life into before and after. Because just a few hours later, Michael would be missing. And the question would be gone. Where is Monkey? Investigators say Michael was last seen between 6 and 7 in the evening, near his home in Fruitland. Walking east in the area of South 9th Street, he was wearing a blue Minecraft shirt, blue boxer-size shorts, and flip-flops. That detail mattered because this was not late at night. This was not the middle of nowhere. This was early evening in a neighborhood near home. A small window of time opened, and inside that window, Michael vanished. Soon his family realized something was wrong. A child who should have been close by was nowhere to be found. The search began fast. Police were called. Neighbors started looking. People checked streets, yards, fields, and nearby area, but there was nothing. No Michael, no clear witness, no simple answer. And that is where the fear deepened, because when a 5-year-old disappears from a neighborhood, every minute feels heavy. Every street becomes important. Every car becomes suspicious. Every neighbor wonders if they saw something and did not understand it at the time. And in Fruitland, that fear spread quickly. The search for Michael became massive. Local law enforcement, search and rescue teams, volunteers, and outside agencies all become part of the effort. Photos of Michael's appeared across Idaho and across the country. His face appeared on missing posters. His nickname Monkey became known far beyond Fruitland. The official city of Fruitland say the search continue and that the Fruitland Police Department remains committed to finding Michael, who disappeared from his neighborhood on the evening of July 27, 2021. But search after search brought no answer. The problem was not that people were ignoring the case. The problem was that the case gave them almost nothing. No body, no clear crime scene, no confirmed suspect in the first days, no simple trail. Police received tips. They checked leads. They studied the area. They looked for vehicles and people who may have been near the neighborhood. At one point, investigators asked for help identifying a white Honda Pilot seen around the time Michael disappeared. They also later asked for help identifying a man seen near the splash pad area of Crestview Park before the disappearance. But still, Michael remained missing. And for his family, every day became another day without answers. Some missing child cases become quiet after the first few weeks. This one did not. Michael's family kept pushing. Police kept investigating. The community kept remembering, and the pain stayed public. On Michael's birthday in 2024, his mother, Brandy Neal, shared a message through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. She said that the day should have been filled with smiles, laugh, and joy, but instead the family had heavy hearts. She said Michael's baby sister would open his present for him. The one detail is heartbreaking. A birthday cake, presents, a little sister opening gifts for a brother who is not there. That is what this case really is. It is not just a headline. It is not just courtroom file. It is a family living years after years with an empty space in the house. And that is why the question never went away. Where is Michael? For more than a year, the case stayed painful and confusing. Then in November 2022, everything changed. Police received what was described publicly as a very credible tip. That tip led investigators to a home connected to Stacey and Sarah Wondra. The Wondra home was not far from where Michael had disappeared, and suddenly the investigation focused on a property that had been close to the case the whole time. Authorities searched the property. They dug, they brought in canine teams, they looked for remains, they looked for any sign of Michael. This was the moment many people thought the case was finally about to break open. But even after the search, Michael's remains were not found. And that made the case even more disturbing. Because now investigators had a direction. They had names. They had statements. They had a property. But they still did not have Michael. According to court reporting and the released affidavit, Stacey Wondra later told police that members of his household were involved in Michael's abduction and death. CBS 2 Idaho reported that he named his wife, Sarah Wondra, and two people who had been staying at the home, Brandon Shortliff and Adrian Lucien. Stacey Wondra is the only person officially charged in the case as of the cited reporting. This is where we must be careful. This are allegations. A court has not convicted Stacey Wondra, and the people he named have not all been charged in Michael's death. But the statements changed the investigation because they gave police a possible story, a story that was darker than anyone wanted to imagine. A neighbor, according to the affidavit reported by CBS 2 Idaho, told police she saw Michael riding a tricycle near the Wondra home around the time he went missing. That same report says live scent dogs showed interest in the area where Michael disappeared, the place where the tricycle was later found, and the Wondra house. Think about that. A little boy, a tricycle, a nearby home, a neighborhood where someone may have been something or seen something important, and for years nobody, no final answer, just fragments. Investigators also looked at behavior after Michael vanished. According to CBS 2 Idaho's reporting on the probable cause affidavit, police believed Sarah Wondra's behavior changed after Michael disappeared. The report says she began posting many religious videos and speaking about breaking the Ten Commandments. That detail became part of the public story because investigators were not only looking for physical evidence, they were looking at conduct, changes, statements, vehicles, phones, movement. CBS 2 Idaho also reported that Sarah and Stacey began changing phones and vehicles, and that police believed a GMC pickup may have been involved in the abduction. The report said the pickup was repossessed shortly after Michael disappeared and was described as thoroughly cleaned. Again, These are allegations and investigative claims, but they are important because they show why police did not treat this as a simple missing child case anymore. They were building timeline. They were looking at a household. They were trying to understand what happened in the hours after Michael vanished. And the more the case developed, the more it pointed toward the terrible possibility that Michael had wandered away, that someone took him. The backyard became one of the most important places in the case. According to CBS 2 Idaho, the affidavit said 5 certified cadaver canine team were brought to the Wondra home in November 2022. And all 5 dogs alerted in the same area of the backyard identified by Stacey Wondra. Detectives also noted disturbed or replaced soil in that part of the yard. That is a major detail. 5 certified cadaver dogs, the same area, a backyard connected to the people being investigated, but no remain. That is what makes this case so painful and so complicated. Because if Michael had been there, where was he now? Was the body moved? Was the information incomplete? Was someone lying? Was someone telling half the truth? In court reporting from March 2026, the Idaho Statesman reported that authorities believed Michael's body may have once been buried in the Wondra backyard and then moved before the excavation. The defense argued that there was no physical evidence proving the alert were Michael. That is the battle at the heart of this case. The prosecution said the evidence points to Stacey Wondra's involvement. The defense said the case is built on a weak statements and missing proof, and Michael's family is trapped between those two sides, still waiting for the one thing that matters most, their son. By the end of 2022, the case had changed forever. The search was no longer just about where Michael went. It became about what people inside one household knew. It became about police interviews, a backyard, a possible cover-up, and a story that kept shifting. But the most disturbing part was still ahead, because in court, prosecutor would later describe what they believe happened after Michael was taken, and the detail would leave his parents walking out of the courtroom. In late 2025, Stacey Wondra was charged in connection with Michael's disappearance and alleged death. Court TV reported that Stacey James Wondra pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder and kidnapping in Michael's case. Michael was last seen on July 27, 2021, and his body has never been found. The charges were serious: first-degree murder, kidnapping, destruction, or concealment of evidence, but charging a person is not the same as proving guilt. The prosecution now had to convince a court that the case should move forward. That happened during the preliminary hearing. A preliminary hearing is not the full trial. It is not where guilt is finally decided. It is where a judge decides if there is enough evidence for the case to continue. And in March 2026, the hearing brought the public closer than ever to the story prosecutors believe happened to Michael. During the hearing, prosecutors played hours of recorded police interview footage. According to CBS 2 Idaho, Stacey Wondra repeatedly distanced himself from a major role in the kidnapping or killing and instead implicated Sarah Wondra and Adrian Lucien as the main people responsible. That is the key point. Prosecutors say Stacey was not telling a clean, simple truth. They say he was trying to help himself, trying to give police enough information to matter, but also trying to write himself out of the worst part of the story. Court TV reported that Stacey Wondra said he had no part in taking Michael and said he suggested calling police, but also conceded he did nothing to stop his wife and 2 roommates from restraining Michael while he screamed for his mother. That is one of the most painful details in the case because it places Michael alive and terrified in the middle of the alleged crime. little boy asking for his mother, and adults around him. This is why the courtroom was emotional. This is why the case is not just legally complicated. It is morally unbearable. According to CBS 2 Idaho's report on the affidavit, Stacey Wondra told police that Michael was duct-taped and placed inside a duffel bag. He claimed Brandon and Adrian helped and said Michael was placed in the back of pickup and taken to a home in Kona. The report says Stacey became physically ill while explaining that Michael was dead by the time they arrived. This part of the story is hard to hear, but for a documentary it must be handled carefully. We do not need graphic language. We do not need shock for shock's sake. The horror is already clear. Prosecutors believe Michael was taken from his neighborhood, restrained, placed inside a bag, and moved. They believe he died during or after that abduction. That allegation raises more questions. Was the motive money? Was the story true? Was Stacey repeating what he was told? Was he protecting himself? Was he blaming others? Those are questions the trial has to confront, because the case is not built around one clean piece of evidence. It is built around statements, movements, dog alerts, alleged behavior, changes, and the missing child who still has not been found. In many murder cases, the body tells the story. It can show cause of death. It can show location. It can show timeline. It can confirm or challenge witness statements. But in Michael's case, investigators do not have that. Michael's body has never been recovered. That makes everything harder. It makes the prosecution's job harder. It makes the defense argument stronger. And it makes the family pain deeper. Because for them, this is not only about a conviction. It is about to bring in Michael home. The official Fruitland page still says the search continue, and it lists the tip email as findmichael@fruitland.org. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children also continues to ask anyone with information to contact them, Fruitland Police, or the tip line. That means this case is still open in the most important way. Michael still has not been found. A real documentary has to show both sides. The prosecution has serious allegations, but Stacey Wondra had pleaded not guilty, and his defense has challenged the case. The Idaho Statesman reported that the defense called the prosecution case guesswork, argued there was no single piece of physical evidence despite major search efforts, and said there was no way to know that cadaver dog alerts in the backyard were connected to Michael. That is the defense's strongest line. No body, no direct physical evidence publicly confirmed as Michael, no final proof of where Michael was taken, no confirmed remained, and statements from a man who, by the prosecution's own theory, was trying to reduce his own role. So the trial will not only ask one question: did Stacey Wondra help commit these crimes? It will also ask another: can prosecutors prove it beyond a reasonable doubt without Michael's body? That is what makes the coming trial so important. After the preliminary hearing, the judge ruled this was probable cause for the case to move forward. That does not mean they were found guilty. It means the judge found enough evidence for the charge to continue. Court TV later reported that Wondra's trial was scheduled to begin on September 14, 2026, and expected to run for about 4 weeks. The trial is the next major chapter, and it will be watched closely, not only in Idaho, but by anyone who has followed Michael's case from the beginning, because the trial may finally reveal more of the evidence, more of the interviews, more of the timeline, more of what investigators believe happened inside and around the Wondra home. But even a trial cannot fix the biggest wound unless someone finally reveals where is Michael now. At the center of this case is not Stacey Wondra. It is not the courtroom. It is not the legal battle. It is Michael and his family. His mother once said the family was still waiting for him. His father said Michael was beyond missed and beyond loved and that they needed him. That is the line that stays with you. We need him, because that's what this case took for them. Not just a son, not just a brother, but the chance to know, to bury, to grieve with certainty, to stop imagining every possible version of what happened. For years, Michael's family lived with hope and horror at the same time. Hope that he could be found, horror that the truth may be worse than anyone wanted to say. And now, with a trial ahead, they face a different kind of waiting for testimony, waiting for evidence, waiting for a jury, waiting for a justice, and still waiting for Michael. Michael's case has every element that usually draws national attention. A missing child, a small town, a nearby suspect, a backyard search, a body never found, a trial years later. But compared with another famous missing child case, Michael's story has not received the same long-form attention. One reason is timing. 4 years, there was no final answer, no body, no trial, no clean ending. Another reason is geography. Fruitland, Idaho is not a giant media city. The case was huge locally, but it did not become the same kind of national obsession as other cases. Now that the trial is moving forward, that could change, because the court process may bring new information, and because the central question is still open: where is Michael? This case began with a little boy walking near home. It's become a search, then a mystery, then an investigation focused on a nearby household, then a criminal case. But under every legal document, every interview, every news report, the same truth remains. Michael was 5. He had a family, he had a nickname, he had a life, and he disappeared from a place where he should have been safe. The court will decide what can be proven. A jury will decide guilt or innocence. But there is no answer, only someone out there can give. Where is Michael? Until that answer comes, this case is not over. Not for Fruitland, not for investigators, not for the family still waiting to bring Monkey home. Michael vanished on July 27th, 2021. As of this recording, his body has not been found. Stacey Wondra has pleaded not guilty, and his trial is scheduled for September 2026. If you know anything about Michael disappearance, contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the Fruitland Police Department, or the official tip line. Because after all these years, one truth still matters more than every headline. Michael still needs to come home. Thank you.